We had to move to different cities frequently because of my dad's job. I went to a different school almost every year, and just when I got used to the new environment, we moved again. Our next stop was Charleston. It took me some time to get used to our new house. It was actually a nice house, old but historic. Everything started when I discovered the basement. I started having nightmares, waking up at the same time every day to a noise coming from the basement, exactly at 2:33. At first, I didn't care. I thought it was the sound of old pipes. The noises I heard were a little strange, as if someone was making the noise on purpose. Every 3 seconds, it sounded like someone was tapping on a pipe. That night, at 2:33 again, I woke up. Waking up in the middle of the night every night was a nightmare. I couldn't take it anymore, so I decided to go down to the basement. I was scared, but I was also very curious about the source of the sound. If I found the source of the noise, I would completely solve the problem and sleep peacefully at night. I approached the basement door and turned on the light. The stairs were very old, creaking with every step I took. This made me even more scared. Before opening the door, I listened to the sounds for about 2 minutes and slowly opened the door. There was a very strong smell inside, damp and stuffy. Everything seemed to be in place. There were belongings left by the previous owner. There was no sound. In the corner, there was a dirty sleeping bag, which I thought might have been left by the previous owner, so I didn't pay much attention to it. Just as I was about to leave the basement, I heard a noise coming from inside, like something was being dragged. I turned around and waited for a while, but I didn't hear anything. Still, something was bothering me. Maybe I was just becoming paranoid. I thought it was because I hadn't fully adjusted to the new house. I went upstairs and locked the basement door. The next morning, when I went to the kitchen for breakfast, I noticed the basement door was open. I was sure I locked it the night before. My mom and dad had gone to work early, so they couldn't have opened it. This made me really curious. I had an old camera and hid it under the old table in the basement. If there was something in the basement, I would be able to see it. What I really wanted was to see that there was nothing inside and get rid of my paranoia. That night, I stayed up and started watching the camera footage. It was very dark, and I couldn't see anything. I waited for a long time, about an hour and a half, and then I saw a shadow move inside. I continued to watch carefully. At that moment, I saw a flashlight turn on inside. Since it was dark, I couldn't tell what was happening. For a moment I saw him, a middle-aged man with a beard, wearing old clothes. My heart almost stopped. I was in shock. I just stood there, watching that man without moving. I had to do something. Without making a sound, I slowly moved toward the basement door. The basement door was open again, so I immediately locked it. I ran to my mom and dad. They were asleep. I woke them up. "There's someone in the basement. We need to do something," I said. At first, they didn't believe me. They thought I was imagining things, but I showed my family the camera footage. The fear on my mom's face said everything. My dad immediately called the police. I'm not exaggerating. Those terrifying moments I experienced took 2 years off my life. Fortunately, the police came right away and caught the man trying to run away. We later found out he was a homeless man with mental health issues, living on the street. He had been living there for a long time. The truly scary part was that he had been living in the basement since we moved into the house. The next day, my dad installed an alarm system in the house. For a long time, we made sure the doors were locked before going to bed, and this affected me negatively. I still feel like I can hear those noises from the basement. I'm so scared that man will come back. I had been looking for a reason not to go into the basement for years. Since my childhood, it had always remained a cold, dark, and unsettling place in my mind. Even though my dad would say, "There's nothing there, just our old stuff." The strange smell and eerie silence that came from the basement always made me uneasy. That night, I was alone. The power had gone out, and my phone's battery was nearly dead. A violent storm was raging outside. My only option for light was in the basement, because my dad kept the flashlights there. I took a deep breath, put a small knife I found in the kitchen into my pocket, as if it would keep me safe. As soon as I opened the basement door, that familiar smell came. Damp, dusty, and something else. Something I couldn't define, but that made my stomach churn. I slowly began to descend the stairs. The wooden steps creaked with every step I took. That sound really scared me. With every step I took, my fear grew. The basement was cold. I was slowly making my way down, feeling the wall with my hand to avoid falling. I turned on my phone's flashlight, hoping to light up the place a little. Everything was just as my dad had said. Old boxes, dusty furniture, and a few old toys. But something was wrong. I heard a faint whisper right next to my ear. I turned quickly, but there was no one behind me. I thought it was the sound of the storm. Trying to calm myself down, I continued searching through the boxes. I was going to find the flashlights and get out of that damn place. But then I noticed something behind a box. A door. On the basement, there was an old wooden door. I'd never seen this door before. My dad had always told me there was only one room in the basement. So what was this? My hands were trembling, but somehow I felt compelled to open the door. When I opened the door, a stronger smell came, like rotten meat. I shined my phone's light inside, and in that moment, I felt all the courage inside me disappear. The room was filled with strange symbols drawn on the walls. A large circle was drawn on the floor, and right in the center of the circle was an old table, looking as though it was covered in blood. Around the table, candles were lined up, but all of them had gone out. My heart was fast pounding. Just as I was about to turn back, I was startled by the sound of the door closing. I ran toward the door, but it was locked. I panicked, punching the door, yelling, but no one could hear me. Then, the whispers returned. But this time, they were clearer. It was as if they were right next to me, saying my name, Isabel. When I heard the voice calling me, I was in shock. I shook my phone to make the light shine a bit further, and I saw a figure in the corner of the room. A human, or something that used to be human. A decayed face, hollow eye sockets, and a deformed body. It was looking at me. It wasn't moving, but the feeling I had was unmistakably threatening. I froze. My legs were trembling with fear. I couldn't move. In that moment, the figure took a step and spoke again with a whisper. I was sleeping before you came. But now, I've woken up. Somehow, I knew I had to escape. But how? The door was locked, and this creature was in front of me. Suddenly, the light on my phone went out, and everything was dark. I couldn't see anything. Was the creature coming toward me? The room was completely silent. There were no sounds. The last thing I heard was that disgusting voice. This place is now stronger with you. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself on the basement stairs. I had nothing in my hands, no phone, no flashlight, but I could still feel that rotten smell on me. I rushed upstairs, closed the door, and locked it. When my family came home, I cried as I told them what I had experienced. My dad and I went down to the basement together. I was about to lose my mind, but the door I had seen was gone. My dad said I had seen such things because I was scared. I knew exactly what I had seen. They didn't believe me, but I know. There's something in the basement, and it's still waiting for me.